Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 3 of Vinland Saga. Ooh, I couldn't wait. I watched episode 2 a couple days ago, and I was like, they're gonna end off there with Thors being targeted by Floki. I can't end it here. No, episode 2 just came out on Patreon today. And episode 1 is going to air on YouTube tomorrow. So I'm sure that by the time you all give me comments about episode 1, I'll be through episode 3. But that's okay. Whatever you comment, I'll just pick it right up for the future episodes. I do actually have some comments I want to bring up. Askeladd and Wushin Sweebian gave me some really cool information. I'm glad y'all did that. I'm glad the information that Askeladd and Wushin Sweebian gave me is not spoilery. It's just some historical context. And I really appreciate that because even though I'm going through this series and trying not to be spoiled on the characters, because I'll be honest, it's been a long time since I've taken a history class, and Viking history is not something I'm very brushed up upon. So I know a little teensy bit about Viking history, like some names, a little bit of it, but I don't know a lot, right? And so for some reason, my brain does a really good job of memorizing anime character names and the events of anime, but you tell me something from 2,000 years ago in our own history, and I'm like, wait, what happened? so that's where we are. But those two individuals gave me some really good information. But I like how I don't remember, Askeladd, if it was you or someone else, described Vinland Saga as a slow burn for an anime. And I really like that. I can do slow burns. Slow burns are not for everyone, right? I'm watching Ace of the Diamond right now. That is a sports anime equivalent of a slow burn. But it's so worth it. It's rewarding, right? I feel like slow burns, if they're done right, they're so rewarding because you get all this time invested in them and the characters, and then it all pays off in the end, and you just feel like you've accomplished something by reading this story. And so shows like Modao Zushi and things like Ace of the Diamond, those series, they're slow burns, but they reward you for your patience and for sticking with the series and those characters for so long. So I'm really excited that Vinland Saga looks like it's going to do that too. But I do have a couple notes before we start episode 3. Askeladd noted that Slav is actually referring to Slavic. And I wondered about Slavic. I didn't want to bring that term up because I was like, I'm not sure, but that's what it's referring to. Someone who is from Eastern Europe. So Poland, Ukraine, Russia, someone who is from there. So the slave that Thors rescued from Halfdan was Slavic. So someone from Eastern Europe. Good to know. And then Wushin Sweebian sent me a lot of information just about leading up to the events of 1002. So I just did like a little brief abridged version of what Wushin sent me. So there's that. But basically, the information that I have going into this episode, so thank you for this, was knowing that before 927 AD, England was ruled by several different Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, meaning there was Northumbria, which we've had mentioned. There was America, I'm assuming. I want to say Mercia, but then I'm thinking of Sonic the Hedgehog, and in that they changed America to Mercia, whatever. And then East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Sussex, and Wessex. So there's those different kingdoms. And then in 927 AD, King Athelstan united England into one kingdom under the Wessex hegemony. And then he was the grandson of Alfred the Great. And then about 50 years later, about 55 years later, or 51 years later, while the Saxons were ruling England, Ethelred, he was named as the new king as a child, succeeded after his brother Edward was murdered. And so that's about 30-ish years before the events of this story, where we are in the present. And then in 980, the Viking raids started to increase, and they were led initially by Olaf Tryggvason, king of Norway, and then later by Swin, which was the king of Denmark, which he was mentioned in the last episode, right? And then in 1002, where episode 2's events started at, was the St. Brice's Day massacre of the Danes, which led to the events we're seeing now. So I like that the actual history is tying to this series. That's really good. I like it. I like that we're getting some actual historical incidents happening alongside these characters. And Thorkel, actually, Wushin noted, was based off of an actual person called Thorkel the Tall or Thorkel the High, who was a prominent Jomsviking lord or noble. I'm like, cool. So he was actually based on a real person too. Neat. And obviously we know Leif Erikson is based as well. So in terms of the Christianity concept, because in the last episode I said that if you don't know Viking history, if you're not historically in tune, you would probably think that Vikings are all pagan. But as Wushin pointed out, around the 7 to 800s AD, English and Frankish priests and monks started to try to convert Vikings over from paganism to Christianity. So, and this story is taking place about 200 years later. So it's just showing the slow process of integrating this religion and this religious diversity into the Viking culture. So you still have Vikings that are clinging to pagan gods of old, or the gods that they've grown up with or that their culture has practiced for centuries. And then you have other Vikings like Leif, who is a converted Christian and starting to incorporate these different ideologies and religious beliefs. And so that's really cool that we're seeing these worlds, even though these worlds have been, together as a group for centuries, we're seeing how they're slowly starting to mingle and dissent and branch off into different religions and different ideologies, and that's really cool. And so I'm excited by that, because that means that maybe this series, since it goes so slow and takes its time with character development, is going to spend the time to develop that with these characters. That's really exciting. But yeah, apparently in 965, which is about 40-ish years before the events of present day in Vinland Saga, King Harald Bluetooth was baptized and then kind of made this proclamation claiming that Christianity was something the Vikings should take up. So, and several Danish people were converted to Christianity afterwards. And then it was noted that by the end of the Viking era, many Vikings had been converted over to Christianity and were given burial rights in tune with that religion. So interesting. I glad I got like a little mini history lesson before this. I don't feel spoiled, so it's like a win-win, right? But yeah, so thank you, Askeladd, thank you, Wushin Sweebian, for giving me that information. I feel like that's good to know a little bit of historical context going into this, right? Because we clearly see, like in the last episode, that Askeladd is not really a fan of Christianity. He's sticking to the old ways. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Very, very interesting. I like when series like Game of Thrones, Vikings in general, like take that historical information and kind of like, Game of Thrones is a fantasy story, but it subverts some of that historical, past events and makes it into a fantasy show. And this is kind of doing this in the anime realm. So interesting. But yeah, I've wasted enough time. We're going to go ahead and start episode 3 of Vinland Saga and see what happens to old Thors. I'm worried. I don't like this Floki guy, and I don't like what he's got planned. Not one bit. But we're going to start this episode here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh. Oh, this series, it sucks you in. It sinks into your bones in like the craziest ways. I just find myself more and more captivated by it, watching it. It doesn't feel like an anime. Honestly, this does not feel like an anime. It feels like an animated series. It feels like a drama you'd see like Vikings, like Game of Thrones, that does not have any, there's humor in it, but it's not exaggerated cartoonish humor, right? There's nothing cartoonish or over the top or like, oh my gosh, like the characters don't have these like wild cartoonish voices. Even in series like Attack on Titan or something that's more serious, there's moments where the characters like have these exaggerated moments and you remind yourself, oh yeah, this is an anime. But with Vinland Saga, it does not feel like an anime. It doesn't. It just feels like a real show that just happens to be animated. There's not like the tropes that you see with the anime. I think the closest thing we get to it is Ari trying to confess to Ylva and his mom being there. That's like the closest thing we get to it. But no, otherwise it's pretty grounded and real. And I like that about it. I like that there's not right now, there's not a supernatural element to it other than the fact these Vikings are freakishly strong. That's literally the most supernatural thing about this series so far. It's just all rooted in this like historical realism, and I like that so much. But Thors, my dude. Thors is like, it's so funny. I want to say Father of the Year, and then you see how he was when Ylva was born. And you're like, wow, he is a changed man. Fatherhood changed him, right? And that moment that he gave Ylva her name, and that's why. I will talk about that moment. That's why Helga made him do it, right? We'll talk about that moment. Oh, Helga, like what a boss. I love her more and more. But man, this episode, that opening, this series has a thing where it opens you up on such a crazy moment and then it like opens up on such an insane moment, and then it just takes its time to be like, okay, die down, right? It's like it opens up and it's really intense, and there's this opening scene right before the OP where you're like, holy crap, and then afterwards the rest of the episode kind of just like filters and slides along, and you're like, okay, everything's cool, everything's fine. But man, okay, so we didn't talk about this. Everybody in the Discord, somebody was saying, they're like, I'm really curious what you'll think of Askeladd, and I like Askeladd so far. I hope I'm saying that right. If not, I'm sure people will correct me. I like Askeladd so far. He's interesting. He's a very roguish character, but it's the weirdest thing. He's a rogue, and I don't think you can entirely trust him, but he's kind of like a Han Solo figure from Star Wars. He's kind of like a Han Solo. Like, he's roguish, and he's willing to, he'll keep you on your toes, and he knows what's up, and he doesn't quite trust the people around him. He's gonna make sure that he's covered himself, right? His ass is covered. But he seems like a man of his word, and he seems like someone that's not slimy. He's very roguish, and I don't think you can entirely trust him. He's got his own agenda, but I do think he's somebody that you can trust his word, and that he is not going to be slimy or sleazy. Floki seems sleazy. There's a big difference there, right? I don't consider Askeladd a good character. I feel like he's going to do things in this series that we're not going to like him for, like killing Thors apparently, but I feel like he's not an evil character. He's not evil. He has his own reasons for why he's doing the things he's doing. He's interesting. I like characters like Askeladd. That's the thing. I like characters like him. He strikes me as like a Kenny from Attack on Titan, like a Kenny-like figure is what he strikes me as, and I love Kenny in that show, so he strikes me as that type of character, but I'm going to be curious to see how he goes. In the OP, Thorfinn's with him, so I'm wondering if he takes Thorfinn. The OP, I don't consider it spoilery because it's all just context. We don't know exactly what the deal is. But I'm like, does he take Thorfinn? Does he end up killing Thors and Leif and the others, and he takes Thorfinn under his wing because he can't kill a kid? Is that maybe it? I don't know. We don't know how old Thorfinn is in the OP when he's older, and I don't want to know. I don't want to be surprised. I want to be surprised by that. I don't want spoilers yet. We'll find that out, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm curious to know exactly what goes down, why he ends up with, maybe Leif takes him back home, and maybe he meets up with Askeladd again. Maybe they meet up again. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe Thors is gonna die, and I hate it because I love Thors. He's like such a good character. He's so damn good, and I love him as a character, and he's gonna die. They've said it since episode 1. It was gonna happen. I don't know how yet, but I don't get good vibes, but it's just, he's such a good character, and he represents so many, like, just the idea of redemption and changing and becoming a better person and fatherhood and how loving something changes you for the better, and him realizing that war is stupid and like not wanting to fight anymore and like trying to protect this village and his son, and he represents all of these great things, and they're gonna kill him. And it's like, but the question is why? Because I agree, the whole 15-year thing about deserting, Floki's up to something. Even if those were his orders, the fact that Floki's having Askeladd do it is suspicious, and we'll talk about that. But they're offering him 5 pounds of gold, which is not a measly amount in exchange for his dead body. And again, I get the Han Solo vibes because he's got his feet propped up on the table just like Han Solo. If he had a blaster and shot Guido first, that'd be like if Floki was Guido. That's all we need, and we have the whole Han Solo parallel there, right? But God, the man hiding inside the walls, God, that was such a good reveal. I love it. It just comes out and bites you. I love it. But yeah, this guy with his shit-eating grin, Askeladd, yeah, just being like, kill Thors. Yeah. And so all of Floki's men are just sitting there. Here's the thing. Floki's men are just sitting there stoically, but the expressions on their face, they look like they are not happy to be there. They're not partaking in any of Askeladd's men's antics. They don't look happy to be there. So I wonder if they know why Floki is asking him to kill Thors, like what the deal is. I don't know. We established that Thors married Helga, who was the army leader's daughter. So he clearly had a connection there with what was going on. And he's well known. And the army wanted him to come back and fight. So what is Floki doing? That's the big question. The Troll of Jom. He's like, I've heard of him. And he's like, he's a hero to you guys. But not to Floki. He's like, if he were a hero, I wouldn't have told you to kill him. So yeah, Floki is obviously mad that he deserted. And maybe Floki is jealous of what he has there, that he has this peaceful home life with this family, and he's able to live in peace. And maybe Floki's like, we've been living in hell the last 15 years fighting these battles, and you ran away to go live this peaceful life with your wife and kids. Like, maybe that's part of it, that he's just mad at what Thors became, that he considers Thors a coward, that he thinks Thors abandoned them. Like, I'm sure there's a host of reasons why Floki wouldn't like Thors. And so he's decided, like, he's not a warrior anymore, so we're just going to kill him. So that's the end of it. He broke military law. And I like Askeladd, Askeladd starts, like kind of rocking in his chair, like he's thinking, mulling that over. Orders to have him executed were issued 15 years ago. And he's like, He's like, that seems like a long time. Like, you guys got strict laws, but 15 years? You're still looking for him after 15 years? He's like, oh, thanks. And I feel like there's so many telling things about Askeladd's character. He doesn't care about Floki at all. And he's not trying to be respectful in any way, shape, or form. No. And I say that because he has the flask. He drinks the very last drop of it, and he's like, oh, gee, thanks. And then just tosses it aside. Like, doesn't even consider it worthy of even putting back on the table. Like, just bye. Like, Askeladd does not give a care about Floki and his mission. He's like, just pay us our stuff and leave. Like, we don't care about your sob story, about whatever history you guys have. And I like that Floki does not like that. Floki's like he knows that he's being disrespected, and he doesn't like it at all. Also, the animation, they really get up close with that scar on Floki's face. Like, you can see it, like, the way that they animate it, it's so cool because it looks like it's just built into the skin. Like, you can see how deep that scar is. That's curious. And I'm wondering did Thors give Floki the scar? Did he give him the scar in the first place? We don't know. But they focus really on it, and they animate it. Like, it's grisly, the way that they, like, get up close with it. And then I like the Askeladd's like, no. He's like, no, don't get the wrong idea. As long as you pay me, I'm still going to do my job. I just, have questions. I want to ask you about it. That's what I like about his character. I like characters that come across kind of like these trickster characters, but they clearly have the prowess to back themselves up. Like, it's not arrogance. That's what it seems like at the beginning here. But then once the one guy throws the spear, it's like, nah, Askeladd and his men, they seem on the outside like they're a bunch of clowns just trashing the place. But they are quite capable of destroying and causing damage. Yeah, he's like, I'll do any job, but master. Yeah, and I like this. He's like, you guys are so noble and so all about respect and status. He's like, why are you having us rogues kill your man? Why don't you do it yourself? If it's an order for you all, if it's an execution order, why aren't you carrying it out? What's the deal? He's like, you went to Iceland. Why didn't you kill him there? And that is a thing, too. Why didn't you kill him there on Iceland? What was the deal? Why? There weren't any farmers. Like, what are the farmers going to attack you? Like, you guys clearly had the advantage. Why lure him here? What's the point? The Christian monk is dead, so they killed the monk. That part is sad that they just killed him. Like, it's like they drowned him in the barrel of wine after they chopped his leg off. Like that. These guys, it's funny, even though I like Askeladd's character so far, he's not the good guy, right? No, these guys, they just killed this Christian monk and drowned him in a barrel of wine and cut his leg off. They're not, you don't get the warm fuzzies from these guys. No, they clearly mean business, right? They remind me of just a troop of bounty hunters. It's none of your business. You shouldn't ask questions. It's for your own good. And he's like, oh? He's like, well, all right. So, love that. I love that, you know, he doesn't get mad because Floki's just like, it's none of your business. Piss off. And Askeladd's like, okay, fine. 5 extra pounds of gold in advance. And then maybe I'll think about it. Like he's just like, he doesn't get mad. He's just like, okay, fine. You clearly don't want to do this yourself. You clearly have reasons you don't want to do it yourself. You've come here asking me. I'm going to make you work for it. I'm just not going to be cheap labor. You're going to pay extra because you don't have a choice, apparently. You're that desperate, right? I love it. Then I'll accept your job. And he just looks over. I'm like, are you serious? And so then this guy, the mushroom eating man, Bjorn sees into the thing. He sees him and how they're close and is like, something's up. You think you have the upper hand on me. You must be confident in yourself. Yeah, he did. And he does. And he's like, oh, I love that stare off. The stare off between them is so good. And then, again, they close up on Floki's face. And just the way that they just animate that scar, it's so sunk in. It's great. And so he makes a move to lean forward. And that's when that spear chucks in. And I thought the spear... At first, I thought the spear was to cut off Floki from leaning forward anymore, like he was going to go at Askeladd. But that really wasn't the reason. The real reason was to get the guy behind the curtain that could have came in and threatened Askeladd. That is so genius. I love it. Oh. And I'm sure that at that moment, Askeladd's like, there was somebody there, wasn't there? The look on his face, because why would the guy throw it so... I mean, it was closer to Askeladd than it was to Floki. So I'm sure in that moment he's sitting there going, shit, there was a guy right beside me, wasn't there? Like, that's just the look on his face. Oh my God. He's like, oops, it slipped. Are you okay? Yeah, no, you don't slip and sling a spear like that. Nah, that's not how that works. And he's like, oh, be careful. He's like, you guys almost hit me. Coming out here because these guys are crazy. Oh, you klutz. You drank too much. 5 extra pounds of gold paid in advance. You accept? Oh, he's like, you know what we're dishing out. I love that Floki's looking at that tapestry like, crap. Yeah, looking back at it. Fine, all right. He's like, oh, hey, thanks. Excellent, master. You're a great man. See you later. Bye. And he said, and then that's when he asks about Thors. He's like, what kind of a warrior is Thors? Like, what does he fight like? What does he look like? And all Floki can say is that he is no longer a warrior. And Askeladd's like, this really is personal. Interesting. So yeah, they dump out all the wine. He's like, that's enough drinking. Yeah, I love that these guys, he's like, that's enough drinking. We're done. And clearly... The thing of it is, too, is that in the last episode, Leaf established how precious, like, a commodity wine was. He was, like, taking an entire ship full of trinkets and furs just to trade from some flagons of wine. But there's 2 prongs with this. One, Askeladd and his men are probably capable, if they really wanted more wine, they could get more wine. But the other thing is, Thorfinn establishes that his dad likes mead, and we're talking about like the melding of Christianity into the Viking culture. Askeladd does not like Christians, and so when he dumps over the barrel of wine, he probably doesn't drink wine. He's like, this is Christian drink. No, it's not worth our time. Like he probably doesn't, even though it's a precious commodity to Leaf, to Askeladd, he's like, I don't care, and just tosses it over. And I guess he's like, if I want more for my men, I'll go get more. But you see these guys, like the one guy is like doing the meme where he's on the beach and he's like, no. The other guy literally leans down to the ground and starts drinking it off of the ground. He wants it that bad. And everybody else is passed out. Like, just enough drinking. It's time to work, you bastards. And he's like, Bjorn, nice spear throw. He's like, no sweat. Even Floki was in shock. I wish I could have seen it myself. Yep. And, nice. He seems he's not a man of empty words. Yeah, so he's like, this guy, Askeladd, he's like, he's not just some rando who just takes your money. He's the real deal. Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, fun times. Fun times, indeed. So yeah, we get them all packing up on the ship to go off there. And of course, I'm like, Ylva is not the only girl within a 5-mile radius. There's clearly the other girls, because that one girl likes Ari and like tries to, you know, wish him luck, and he's like, who are you? But they all have a crush on Ylva, right? They say because she's cute. I'll return with a necklace I seized from England. And I love that Ylva just doesn't care. She's like, oh, will you? Ylva is a lot like Thors when he was younger, because Thor's attitude whenever she's born reminds me a lot of how Ylva is now. That kind of like harsh ruggedness, that like brash quality, that's a lot like Ylva now. And it explains, you know, Thorfinn is kind of like that too, in a way. He can be kind of brash like that as well. So they do take after their dad to an extent, right? Interesting. But she has her mom's eyes. And I like that all these guys come up to propose to her and confess to her, and she's just like, I hope they don't die. I love it. It's so great. I love that poor Ari's mom like comes to give him food, and he's like, get out of here, mom. And then all the other soldiers come up to confess. Ylva's like, I don't care about any of you. But I love that like the one mom's like, make sure you bathe on Saturday, my boy. And like everybody's seeing him off. And it's just this village, like there's some people that are pregnant. They're like, some of the girls are all there. There's a couple girls in this village. Like there's a little girl there. There's all these young boys and the men. Yeah. They're all seeing him off, but there's only 5 of them. 5 of them, Thors and Leif. It's so sad because Thor's like looking at this village, like it's just so peaceful, and it's so genius on his part. I love that Leif tells, it's a nice way of the author giving us, the audience, exposition of what's really going on. Because yeah, why, as soon as he only brought 5 boys, I'm like, well, he doesn't want any more men from the island dying. And then we find out from Leif that it's not even that. It's that Thors is going to leave them all with Leif. He isn't even going to let them see battle. He's going to go by himself so that they're spared and so that they won't come back to the village. Like he's that self-sacrificing. And then of course Thorfinn hides. I kept wondering, I was like, I wonder if he'll hide in the wine barrel, but that's what he does, right? But they're going to stop in Norway and leave the men on the island and then go on. And Leif's like, Thors is going to get some help from sailors in Norway and make it to Jomsburg. And I'm friends with the previous king of Norway. And I have a lot of influence there. Do you, Leif? As soon as I'm done with my business, then I'll bring the young men back here. And that girl's so happy. She's like, oh, they won't die. Good. So the previous king of Norway, right? So they established that the king of Norway was Olaf back in 980, which was about 20 years ago. So the previous king of Olaf, and then later by Sven, the king of Denmark. So maybe Leif is saying he knew Olaf, and so he says he has influence there, and so he's going to get the guys and come back. Interesting. I wonder if Thorkill is Helga's dad, maybe, or brother. And maybe Helga's dad or brother is Thorkill. Because they said Thorkill, in the history of it that was sent to me, Thorkill was like a noble. So maybe Thorkill was like Helga's brother. He was blonde too, but then a lot of these characters are blonde. But he was blonde, so maybe he was either the brother or the father of Helga that fought with Thors. Interesting. But yeah, Thor's looking for Thorfinn, not seeing him. And then the girl's like, but wait, what about Thors? You mean he's going by himself? Yeah, she's like, excuse me, Leif, does that mean Thors is going into battle alone? Yeah, and there's no answer, is there? There's no answer. Leif doesn't answer her question. Yeah, I just got it. It's so sad. Also, the fact that Thors can row this entire boat with this giant ass oar, it's insane. He's that strong. He's just that strong of a guy. He's like, I can't believe Thorfinn isn't seeing father off. Like, yeah, Ylva looks a lot like Thors and her mom put together. And I love that he looks at her, he's like, I'm sorry, but just Thor's being so adorable. Like, just showing this man has changed. He went from being this battle-hardened man who didn't understand what it was like to love someone, and to being someone that loves his wife and daughter and his son so much. And to the point where he's like this cute teddy bear, and he's so embarrassed. He's like, I don't know what to say to my son, but you'll find out the right words, right? And her saying, I'll let him know. Like, she loves him. I'll tell him. Oh. And that smile that he gives her, like just Thor's now, but it's him now versus what he was before, right? Like how he's changed. I love that they show us Thor's in the past and how he is now currently. But yeah, they take off to sea. And of course, these guys are not conditioned. You know, they've never really sailed on a boat or anything like that. So they're not used to rowing and doing all this work like Thor's is. And when they get far enough out to sea that the current takes them away, that's when Thorfinn pops out of the barrel. And he's like, you guys can't turn around now. You got to take me with you. And I'm surprised how calm Thor's is, honestly. I'm surprised how calm he is, because I figured he'd freak out when he saw that Thorfinn was there. But he's like, we can't do anything about it. He's got to come with us. And that moment that Thorfinn looks down, he's like, look, Dad, it's the ocean. And smiles. Like, I wanted to protect that smile forever, but I feel like it's very short-lived. This 6-year-old kid staring out into the ocean, and he's sailing with his father like what Leif told him to do. Like what he wanted to do all along. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah, it's just, them staring at him. It's so great. And Thorfinn seeing the ocean. You naughty boy. Oh, that smile is worth like everything. That's probably gonna be the thumbnail, is the smile, because it's so good. It's so good. It's either gonna be his smile or Askeladd's gonna be the thumbnail. One of those two. But and then Thor's just being like smiling down at his son, like, you kid. So back at this thing, he says, that's okay. So Askeladd is with Bjorn talking about how Floki is hiding too many secrets. We can't trust him. Yeah, saying he's lying about the execution order. There's some other reason. He's like, I'm certain of it. There's something else going on. And he's like, it's an assassination. Yeah, it's whether it's personal or whatever. It's something that Floki has designed all by himself. And Bjorn's like, well, who cares? Like, a job's a job. They paid us. So what does it matter? And then Askeladd's like, okay, well then why is he paying us? Like, what's to lose, right? That he's asking the bigger picture questions. Like, Bjorn is just like, well, it doesn't matter. It's a job. We've been hired to kill this guy. Who cares the reason? And Askeladd's like, we need to think about the reason, because the reason might affect us. Why are they hiring us to kill their man? What do they get out of it? They'd be going, and so he's like, why hire us? And he's like, well, Bjorn's thinking pragmatically. He's like, well, yeah, they'd get their hands dirty and get in trouble if they killed him. So that's why they're hiring us to do it. That's the simple reason. And Askeladd's like, well, yeah, that could be true. But what if he's afraid of a loss? A loss so large that he won't be able to explain it to his boss. An entire unit. Just to get one washed up soldier. That's crazy. Yeah. So they're saying in that moment, they're like, he knows they want to kill Thors, but Thors is not going to come quietly. He has this family to live for. He's not going to just sit down and let them kill him. He's going to fight. And they know how strong Thors is. So they're like, he could wipe out an entire unit of ours. Floki's like, I can't go back to my king and say, oh, sorry, I lost an entire unit of our soldiers. I was trying to assassinate an old friend that I had a grudge against. You know, he can't just do that. So he's like, I'll just hire these trained guys that can do it and pay them heavily. And if their men die, it's no skin off my back. The job still got done. So that's what he's saying. Yeah. And Askeladd's like, oh, he's like, I wonder what kind of man Thors is. I love this scene, because Thorfinn is trying to climb up the mast and he's like, get down from there. And he spanks that kid. That kid got spanking. You know, that's what you get when you don't listen to your parents. And just a swat, but it's from Thors, so I'm sure it hurt. He's like, I want to get a look at this guy. And he's not really doing it. He's just like, but because it's Thors, I'm sure it hurt. And Thorfinn's like, meh. He's like, I want to see the troll of Jom. Yep. I hope he's a fun guy. Well, fun's an interesting word. I don't know if I describe Thors as fun, but I think he'll be interesting for Askeladd. Of course we have to wait till next episode. I hate it. Ugh. Of course. And so he tells Ari not to look into the ocean at night. He's like, don't, it'll draw you in. And him just sitting there with the row, with the oar, and just having Thorfinn on his lap. It's just, oh, I can't. I know this is going to end awful, and I can't. I just, nope. And I love that we establish in this scene at night just how good of a sailor Leif is, because Leif knows the trajectory and like the way that the waters are changing, and he's like, hey, we need to go a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. And Ari's like, you can't see anything in this. It's pitch black. There's no stars. Like, how do you know? How can he not get lost? And that is a talent, because I'm like, how do you not get lost? Because he knows exactly what to do. Like, it amazes me looking back in history that these sailors were able to navigate across oceans without like technology, without things that could tell you like direction and things. They just knew. They just had the talent and the ways and made it work. And it baffles me, right? We're so heavily dependent upon technology for stuff like that now that you look back and think of these people that were doing it without anything. And it's kind of amazing, right? That it even worked. He's like, don't stare into the sea at night. It'll pull you in. And so that's when he's like, tell us a story about the battlefield. And he doesn't tell him a story about the battlefield. He's like, what is it like on the battlefield? And Thors is like, it's like, I heard you fought in lots of battles. Tell us some stories. He's like, I want to cut off some general's head so I can become a real man too. And Thors looks at that sword at his side, like this nice sword. But the idea that to become a real man, you have to kill someone and be this hardened warrior. And Thors is like, he's like, I see. He's like, my daughter likes strong men. So I love how he does this. He changes it from a story about the battlefield to being about family, to being about why he left the battlefield, why he ran away. And so I love the way that it happens naturally, because Ari kind of sets it up. Ari's like, oh, I want to, cut off a general's head and prove myself that I'm a real man. And Thors is like, you want to be a real man because you think that's going to impress my daughter, right? You think that's going to impress the ladies if you're a real man and you're a warrior, right? It's so good. And then he's like, do you like my daughter? And then you have a tough job ahead. And he's like, oh, well, what can I say? And then he's like, you can tell? And then he's like, are you in love with Ylva, Ari? And he's like, yeah, I like her. She's cute. He's like, when she was born while I was still in the young Vikings army. And he's such a different person back then. Like, it showing him she was my first child. Showing him, like, picking her up. And then not carrying her properly. Like, just, and just not holding her right. And the midwives were like, oh my God, hold her neck, support her neck. She's going to snap it. No, don't. And just how different he is. Like putting the baby beside her and saying, give me a son next time. The leader wants a boy. So it's not what he wants necessarily. It's what her dad wants. Her dad wants her to have a son, like between her and Thors. But that's interesting. So what we don't know is if they had any kids between Ylva and Thorfinn. We don't know that. He said she was my first child, that Ylva was his first. So, because there's 9 years of difference between Ylva and Thorfinn. There's 9 years difference. So either they tried to have other kids and something happened and they died, or they just couldn't have any kids until Thorfinn, or they didn't try. It was different, because the start of this scene makes it seem like they're going to try to have another kid soon to try to have a boy. But then we know from reality that doesn't happen. So we don't know exactly what the deal was. If Helga couldn't have kids for a while, if they had kids and they died, what the deal was, or if they just didn't even try. Like, we don't know. Right? And I like that he says, my wife, Helga, is the daughter of the leader of the army. and leaves her with the baby. It was a difficult birth. She looked pale. Yeah, that baby's huge. And then she says, Thors, give her a name. Name her as you see fit. I'm busy. We're about to go on a campaign to Norway. So if that's 15 years prior, that'd be around 987, which would be around the time, like during when the King of Denmark started to take over. Okay, that all makes sense. Around the time of battle, the ship will depart soon. And saying he's coming. And she says Thors. And she's demanding. She's like, no. I love when she says, give this child a name. I love that because it's Helga establishing you are going to be connected to this child. You are going to have a connection to your daughter. You are not just going to leave her with me and have no part with her. Because when he's like, you name her, you take care of her, she's your kid. He wasn't claiming her at all. And Helga's like, no, you're going to name this child. She's going to be your daughter, and you're going to care about her, right? She's going to have a connection to you. The name that you give her is something personal to you that you picked out. It's going to tie you to your child. Like Helga, what a badass. I love it. She's like, I just had this 9-pound, 10-ounce kid of yours. You get to name her. I love it. And he says, I've been with her for 15 years. So he got with her around the same time that, I guess, got with her, and immediately they got pregnant with Ylva. And that is the only time that I've ever seen Helga mad. She's like, nope, you're not just going to leave me here with this kid you don't care anything about. And that's when he says, I named her Ylva. Ylva was my mother's name. It came to me all of a sudden. Because it's someone he cared about. Someone he loved. Was his mother. That's why he immediately thought of it. And then we see her, like Helga's happy holding this giant 10-pound baby. Now that I think about it, that's when it started. That's when I started to get scared of battle. I love it. I love the idea that when you have nothing to live for, nothing to lose, that it's easy to go into battle when you don't have anyone that you can care about or feel connected to. And you can say it's the opposite. You can say that some people go into battle and are fearless because they'll do anything to protect people that they care about. But for others, it's easy because when they don't have anybody that they're connected to and there's nobody back home waiting on them that they care about, then it's easy to just, carelessly kill and throw away your life and sacrifice yourself because you don't see any, reason why not to. But the moment he named his daughter and had that connection with her and Helga, it's like he instantly realized that there was something back home for him that he wanted to live for. And he didn't want to and that probably instigated realizing that there were other men that had wives and children of their own that they cared about. It ties back to the first episode where the one guy was talking about Marie and whoever that woman was, and he instantly knew, and so he thinks of Helga and his daughter. It creates that bond, and realizing that these people are all fighting for people they care about, and they probably have families back home too that they want to go home to, and it's so good. Yeah, it's so good. It explains so much with Thor's character and what started the change. His daughter Helga making him name his daughter started that change. And it's like, you're a father. It's like, I love it. That's why I ran away. I just love how he looks there. He looks like such a different man, but I love Thor's now way more than that flashback. I bet my old war buddies would curse me if they knew. And Ari's just like, oh. And then the Faroe Islands, that's where they all were. Damn it. That's where they all were. I love the way that this series does this foreboding sense of dread. The moment they started going down the canal, and the moment Leif went into the darkness, it was with the drums, I'm like, why are you signaling that you're coming? Why are you doing that? But that's part of the culture, right? It's ugh. But yeah, they're on Faroe Islands. They're not in England yet. I love this little map. So we have the Hatlandenses, So we have Hatlandenses, we have Anglia, we have Scandinavia, we have the Feringinis, and we have the island of Iceland. Nice. Like the little monsters in the animation there. It's cute. But yeah, our journey will be easier if we rest here for a bit. And there's a village beyond the cove, and that's where they were gonna. That's where Thors was gonna leave them at, right? And they were gonna trade all the way to England. And he's like, yeah. Oh, so cute. But yeah, the moment they go into the cove and it starts getting dark, and you just look up and you see like the rock shift and stuff, and it's so tense. Like this series, they just make you just. I was expecting arrows to start flying. I was expecting them to start firing arrows. And I'm surprised they didn't, but that's not, apparently that's not Askeladd's way. That's not his way. Their way was to trap them there and then go from there. It was a clever way to trap them. They literally destroyed a house. That's why there are few houses. They destroyed a house to block the way. And Askeladd's like, I want to see them up close. He's like, I want to see if this Thors guy is any fun. And cornering them. I'm actually amazed at how calm Thors is throughout all of this. Like, he clearly senses something's wrong, and so does Leif. But I'm amazed at how calm Thors is during all this. This entire trip, like the fact that his son is there, he doesn't freak out. The fact that these men that are from his village could be in danger, he doesn't freak out. Like, Thors is so calm and cool under pressure. It's kind of amazing. But I love it, right? And so these guys up there, their only job was to aim the arrows and to then put the house there to block the ships. But then, yeah, then we have the big warship coming in, and everybody's okay for the moment. And then I like that Thors is like, you will get fired upon. And the one guy already has a shield up. He's like, I'm not getting fired upon. I love that he's ready. He's ready to go. The one guy's like, I'm ready for the arrows. And, that's when the warship comes in with Askeladd. And he has his sword. And the moment he gives the little knife, to Thorfinn, I got this moment. Yeah, and Askeladd. That might be the thumbnail of Askeladd with that smirk. And Leif's like, damn it, we're trapped. We can't go anywhere. We're completely blocked. They've got us. And so then they have this debate, like, maybe they'll spare our lives if we surrender. And he's like, no, they're not going to spare your lives. They'll sell us to the slave market. We got to defend ourselves. And they're all freaking out. And Thors is like, they're not here for you. They're here for me. Like, he knows. He's like, no, you'll just get yourself hurt. He's like, don't even. He's like, stop, Ari. They're experienced. They're not just some farmers working as pirates in the summer for some extra cash. You're no match for them. And they call him father. Oh no, they all kind of call him father, but then Thorfinn, and he puts his hand on his head. No! And it's like Thors knows exactly what's probably going to happen. And that's when he goes and grabs his sword to defend his son. Oh my gosh, y'all. I can't wait for this next episode. I don't think I can wait a week. I don't. I may have to watch ahead. I don't think I can wait a week. No. And that's when, for Thorfinn, this is confusing him because he's like, you just said you weren't going to fight and that you didn't want to fight, but you've taken this sword. And I love that Thors gives him the knife, the blade that he looked at in the last episode. Use it only to protect yourself. Do you understand? Only when you really need it. And that look that he gives him, that look is so good. Just like him being like, I could possibly die, so this is the last time I may see you. Oh my gosh. What a warrior. I don't care what Floki says. Thors is a badass warrior to the end, and I stand by it. Floki, I don't believe you. And I love that he's like, that Ari keeps saying the word kill, and Thors is like, do not say the word kill lightly. Like knowing the weight of a death and knowing the impact of it. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for episode 4. I really can't. No. And then Bjorn takes this mushroom. He eats this mushroom, right? Or he has it in his mouth. I'm like, is it gonna like What? I'm like, is he taking shrooms? Is he taking shrooms to like take the edge off while he fights? Is that what he's doing? Is that something that you can do? I mean, I have not done shrooms before, so I did not know they made you into a Viking warrior. But interesting. So Bjorn thinks he's going to fight him all by himself. And Askeladd's like, are you sure about that? And then, yeah, Thors comes on the ship. And Thors he hasn't even drawn the sword yet. He's just used his bare hands. He's knocked out like 6 guys with his bare hands. Like, that's all he's done so far. Just knocked him flat out. Oh my gosh. And this one guy's in a bear costume, like he has a literal bear pelt over him. What? Oh my god. But yeah, it doesn't even flinch. And I love that Askeladd's like, okay. Askeladd's like, all right, interesting. You sure you got this, Bjorn? Sure you got this? Oh. You're good. Troll of Jean. Oh my gosh. I don't like this because they're trapped there. They're trapped there. I don't know. I don't like this. Either, I don't think Thors is making it out of there alive. I think they've been charged to kill him. They were hired to kill him. I don't think he's making it out alive. The question is, I don't know if Leif is going to talk his way into letting... I don't know if Leif and the boys and Thorfinn are going to be able to escape together. If he's going to be like, hey, let us go. You got your man. Let us go. If that's going to be the case, I don't know that. I don't know if they're going to take Thorfinn and let Leif and the other men go. If they're like, we'll let you guys go, but we're taking the kid. If that's going to happen. Or if they're going to take the men and let Leif and Thorfinn go. Like, there's 4 or 5 different scenarios that it could happen. And I don't know. But, oh my gosh, y'all. Yep. There we go. This episode was so good, but I don't think I can wait till episode 4. So I may have to watch ahead. But if you leave a comment down below, I will eventually get to it. If it's something that I find that I want to talk about, I will eventually get to it. It just may be a couple episodes in advance. You know, but I'm really, really excited about this series. This episode 1 was a nice setup. It was a very slow burn setup. Episode 2 was like, oh, okay, all right. And this episode, I'm like, no, I'm on board. I'm here for this. I'm on board with this. And now I don't know if I can wait. So please no spoilers down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm curious to know what y'all thought of this episode, what you think of Thors, what you think of Askeladd, Floki, bleh. But we shall see, won't we, in episode 4. So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week to talk about episode 4 of Vinland Saga. Bye.